many people are concerned by the current events in Ukraine. And some people are afraid that things have been regressing a little bit in recent times. For example, there's been some recent court decisions that to roll back reforms. President Zelensky's party lost badly in the recent elections. Some of Ukraine's Western allies are threatening to withdraw aid unless certain reforms are put in place. And they're even threatening possibly to suspend visa-free travel to Europe. And what do you think is going on recently in Ukraine with all of this?
So, Ukraine is always, it's a glass half full, half empty problem. I mean, you can look at Ukraine and you can look at everything that's been achieved. I mean, including in the last few, 3 or 4 years, but also in the last 10 years. And you see a truly vibrant society. You see a really self-confident society, much more so than it was before. You can see in area after area, things working better than they used to. I mean, I think if it wasn't for the pandemic, the Ukrainian economy was finally beginning to recover and kind of gather steam. And so you can find all kinds of success stories, one after the other, if you look at this, if you look at the country. But of course, at the same time, it's an incomplete story. I mean, I think the difficulty for Ukrainians, especially young Ukrainians, is there isn't ever going to be a moment when we all say, okay, it's fine now, everything's fixed. And then we don't have to worry anymore. We can all, watch Netflix or, walk in the park and everything's over and it's all fine. I mean, I don't think in our lifetimes, Ukraine will ever be that way. And actually, I have to say, speaking as an American, I think Americans made a great mistake over the last several decades, treating their own democracy as something they didn't really have to worry about. It was all you have to do is show up and vote every 4 years. There is really no society that, in which you can ever relax and say, it's all fine. All we have to do is relax and make money. And I think Ukraine is, for a long time is going to demand a lot of its citizen. It's going to demand a lot of people like you, who can contribute to educating young Ukrainians and who can push for change in the right direction. But it's always going to be 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And that's how it's going to be for many decades. Overcoming Ukrainian history and what Ukraine went through in the 20th century, it's really unsurprising that should take longer than just a few years. I mean, this was a multi-generational trauma. The trauma of the Civil War, the trauma of the famine, the trauma of the Second World War, the trauma of the long decades of Soviet occupation. In a way, even the trauma of the 1990s when everything changed and people were confused by what was going on. The trauma of the 2014 events and then the Russian invasion. I mean, all of these things will take time to process and think through. But I have to say, I'm really proud of Ukrainians for having achieved what they have in a part of the world where it is not a given to have an open society and to have real political debate and to have a thriving intellectual culture. Ukraine has really established that, and you feel it when you go to Kiev, you feel it when you go to Lviv, you feel it when you go to other cities.